If someone had told me last month that I'd be designing a skyscraper for Nigeria's most eligible billionaire, and maybe fallen for him in the process, I would have laughed, choked on my Gary, rolled my eyes, and gone back to binge-watching K-dramas. But here I was, 25 years old, sleep-deprived, underpaid, and one missed meeting away from losing the biggest opportunity of my career. And possibly the most confusing, frustrating, deliciously annoying man I'd ever met. My phone buzzed, vibrating like a tiny, insistent drill sergeant on my bedside table. It was Tunde, my best friend and resident chaos coordinator.
Babe, are you alive? Your client is blowing up my phone.
My client, right, the billionaire client, Mr. Jide Keshinro, the man who had, with a single phone call, yanked me out of my creative rut and plunged me into a different kind of panic. A panic born of sheer, unadulterated opportunity. I was a budding architect, fresh out of university, and somehow, by some miracle, I'd landed the commission to design Keshinro's new corporate headquarters. It was my big break, my Everest, my chance to prove to my perpetually disappointed Auntie Funka that an arts degree could actually pay the bills.
I'm alive, Tunde. Barely. What's he saying? And how the heck did he get your number?
Well, connections, obviously. I almost peed my pants when he told me who he was. He's saying you missed your 10 a.m. meeting. He's also saying something about unprofessionalism and reconsidering his options. Basically, he sounds like he's about to fire you before you've even drawn a straight line.
Fire me? After all the hoops I jumped through just to get this far? The sleepless nights pouring over his impossibly vague brief. Something modern, yet timeless. A touch of Nigerian heritage, but not too traditional. Make it pop, but keep it sophisticated. I swear the man spoke in riddles wrapped in riddles. Tell him on my way, I practically shrieked, scrambling for clothes. How the heck did I forget about the meeting? I must have slept really late overthinking about what design he'd like. I grabbed the first semi-professional outfit I could find. A cream blouse that probably had a coffee stain from last week, and a pair of trousers that were definitely a size too big now that I'd lived on instant noodles for a month. The drive to Keshinro Tower was a blur of frantic prayers and self-recrimination. Lagos traffic, usually my mortal enemy, seemed to be conspiring against me today. Every Danfo driver was an antagonist, every Okada rider a reckless villain in my personal drama.
Idiot, see men like watermelon!
By the time I pulled up to the imposing glass edifice that was Jide Keshinro's current empire, I was a sweaty, disheveled mess. My hair, usually a tamed mane of curls, had decided to embrace its wild side. His assistant, a woman who looked like she'd stepped off the cover of a high-fashion magazine, eyed me with a polite yet unmistakable disdain.
Mr. Keshinro's been expecting you, Miss Adebayo. He's not pleased. That's the door.
Great, just what I needed. A preamble to my impending doom. The office was everything you'd expect from a billionaire. Sleek, minimalist, and with a panoramic view of Lagos that made my tiny studio apartment feel like a shoebox in comparison. And there he was, Jide Keshinro, sitting behind a desk that looked like it was carved from a single block of obsidian. He was a study in controlled power, dark suit, impeccable tie, and eyes that were as sharp and unyielding as polished steel. He didn't look up immediately, instead focusing on the tablet in his hands, his brow furrowed in concentration. I stood there, feeling like a particularly unkempt garden gnome in his pristine minimalist landscape. My heart hammered against my ribs, a desperate drum solo of anxiety. Finally, he lifted his head. His eyes, dark and intense, swept over me. I braced myself for the inevitable dressing down, the polite but firm dismissal. Instead, a slow, almost imperceptible smile played on his lips.
Miss Adebayo, you're late.
I am, sir. And I sincerely apologize. Lagos traffic was unpredictable.
Unpredictable. Yes, a poetic way to describe the daily madness. Please, have a seat. So, Miss Adebayo, my assistant informed me you were having creative difficulties with the preliminary sketches.
Yes, sir. I have been struggling to capture the essence of what you're looking for. Your brief is quite unique.
Unique. I like that. Most people just say confusing.
I prefer to be diplomatic.
Diplomatic and persistent. My assistant also mentioned you called her at 2 a.m. last night asking about my favorite color.
Oops. That was the reason I had slept late. Why the heck did I do that? On a normal, my client would have fired me on the spot. It's no wonder she glared at me like that. Sir, I was just trying to understand your vision better. To get into your head.
And did you succeed, Miss Adebayo? Are you inside my head?
No, sir. Your head is a very private place.
Indeed it is. But I appreciate the effort. Most people wouldn't dare. Tell me, Miss Adebayo, what do you truly think of my current building? Be honest.
Sir, your current tower is functional. It screams power and wealth. But it's also sterile. It lacks warmth. It doesn't tell a story. It doesn't breathe. It's a very expensive box, Mr. Keshinro.
A very expensive box. I like that, Miss Adebayo. You have guts, and you're absolutely right.
So, I'm not fired?
Fired? On the contrary, I think you're precisely what this project needs. Someone who isn't afraid to call my very expensive box a box. And someone who is clearly desperate enough to call my assistant at ungodly hours, proving a certain level of commitment.
Desperation can be a powerful motivator, sir.
Indeed. Tell me, Miss Adebayo, what would you do with a box? How would you make it breathe?
And just like that, the wall in my head, the one that had been my tormentor, my constant companion, began to crack. Not crumble entirely, mind you, but crack enough for a tiny sliver of light to peek through. The conversation flowed, easier than I ever thought possible. I found myself passionately explaining my vision, flowing lines, natural light, spaces that fostered collaboration and creativity, an atrium inspired by the intricate patterns of traditional Adair fabric. I even managed to weave in a few jokes about the impracticality of glass buildings and the Lagos heat. He listened, truly listened, his eyes tracking my every movement, a genuine interest etched on his face. From that day on, my relationship with Jide Kishinro was peculiar. Our meetings were less about stiff formality and more about energetic brainstorming sessions. He challenged my ideas, not to diminish them, but to push them further. He'd tease me about my penchant for bright colors, and I'd retort that his office looked like a funeral parlor. Our arguments, often over the most trivial design detail, would somehow end with us laughing. I learned he was a meticulous businessman, sharp as a tack, but also surprisingly down to earth. He loved obscure jazz, had a weakness for puff puff, and was fiercely loyal to a small circle of friends. I saw glimpses of the man behind the billionaire facade, and found myself, to my utter disbelief, enjoying his company a lot. One afternoon we were on site, amidst the controlled chaos of construction. Dust motes danced in the sunlight, and the rhythmic clang of hammers filled the air. I was explaining the intricacies of a new ventilation system, gesturing wildly with my hands, when he suddenly grabbed my wrist.
Zara, you're incredible, you know that.
My breath hitched. The air around us seemed to thicken, charged with an unspoken tension. He was so close I could feel the warmth radiating from him. His eyes, usually so intense, were now strangely vulnerable. I'm just doing my job, Mr. Keshinro.
Jide. Just call me Jide. And what you're doing is so much more than just a job, Zara. It's difficult to explain. The truth is, I fell in love with you the first day I saw you working on my friend's site. I knew I had to have you. Being my architect was just a ploy to be close to you.
My heart pounded like a djembe drum. This was it. The moment I had simultaneously dreaded and secretly longed for. And to be honest, I had fallen in love with him even before I realized it. My brain, the same brain that struggled with architectural concepts, was screaming, "Billionaire, client, professionalism, run!" But my body apparently had other plans. It leaned in, drawn by an invisible force. Just as I thought he was going to lean in further, perhaps even kiss me, a loud booming voice shattered the moment.
Jide, my boy, are you admiring the new structural beams or something else entirely?
It was Chief Obafemi Keshinro, Jide's father, a man whose presence filled a room like a thunderclap. He was a titan of industry, a man whose wealth predated Nigeria's independence. He was also notorious for his lack of a filter. Chief Keshinro, a mountain of a man in a crisp blue agada, strolled towards us, his booming laughter echoing through the semi-constructed building. His eyes, just like Jide's, were sharp, missing nothing. You took in my flustered state, Jide's slightly sheepish expression, and the lingering tension in the air. A knowing smile spread across his face, a smile that managed to be both mischievous and entirely too perceptive.
Ah, Mr. Adebayo, the young architect who's managed to make my son smile more in the last few months than he has in the last few years. Tell me, are you two discussing the optimal placement of the new bachelor pad in this edifice? Father, please, We were discussing the acoustic properties of the new conference hall. Acoustic properties, eh? Yes, I'm sure. Just like you understand market trends that doubly in Miss Adewale. Don't think I don't see what's going on, my boy. My old eyes might be failing, but my instincts for a good catch are as sharp as ever. She's a good one, Jide. Smart, sharp, and she clearly knows how to handle your stubbornness. Father, you're embarrassing me. Embarrassing you? Nonsense. I'm simply stating facts. A good woman is hard to find, especially one who can make a workaholic like you consider something other than quarterly reports. So, Miss Adebayo, when are you going to stop hiding behind blueprints and let my son take you out properly? Since my father has decided to be so direct, how about dinner this Friday, Zara? No blueprints, no discussions about acoustic properties. Just us.
I'd like that, Jide.
Wonderful. Excellent. See, Jide, sometimes a little push from your dear old father is all it takes.
As his father continued to offer unsolicited dating advice, Jide certainly took my hand, his fingers intertwining with mine. The warmth of his touch was electric, a promise of something more. Before I could even process the weight of his hand on mine, his other hand gently cupped my cheek. My mind screamed, "Stop! Your father is right there," probably with a smirk on his face. But his beautiful eyes, reflecting the Lagos sunlight, held mine captive, making me forget my surroundings. A slow smile spread across his lips. He said my name, his voice a husky whisper that sent shivers down my spine. And then he kissed me.
Zara.
With a sigh that mingled with mine, the kiss deepened. The booming voice of his father, the clang of hammers, and the dusty construction site all dissolved into a soft, hazy hum. It wasn't just a kiss. It was a silent conversation, a melting away of barriers, a moment stolen right under his father's nose in the dusty heart of our project. It felt like the most natural thing in the world, like coming home after a long journey. The creative wall in my brain had completely crumbled, and its place was a feeling of pure, unadulterated inspiration. Not just for buildings, but for something far grander, something that felt like sunshine after a long dark night. A romance with a Nigerian billionaire, complete with a hilarious, meddling father. It was going to be an interesting ride, and for the first time in a long time, I couldn't wait to see where it would take me.